Hi, my name is John, and thank you so much for joining into this YouTube channel. I'm doing this playlist on near-death experiences because it's something that I've been very fascinated in. So I'm getting everyday people just to talk about their stories and how it's changed their life. And this particular story, the client Jill told, she's a beautiful, amazing human being. As you'll find out, her story is absolutely fascinating and how it changed her life. She was a nurse in South Africa, and then she moved to New Zealand. And she lives in Wanaka, a beautiful part of New Zealand down the South Island by Queenstown, one of the most beautiful gems of the world. So feel free to get in contact with me or leave a comment down below. And if you have a friend that's had an NDE and would love to be interviewed, please feel free to let me know. So I really hope that you enjoy it. Thanks. Thank you very much for joining me on this NDE series. And I've got a wonderful, beautiful human being here called Jill, and she's had an amazing near-death experience. And actually she knows a couple of people that have had other ones as well, very close to her, indeed. This is about her experience. And so please feel free to introduce yourself, and I'll just leaving the ball into your court and start wherever you want to start with your amazing experience.
With my story.
With your story.
So I sound like or feel like one of those children that hold up the picture and say, and this is my story. With my stick figures. So firstly, John, thank you so much for doing this series. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, wow, I'm so in. I just feel that not enough people talk about this. And it happens to quite a few people, but a lot of them don't like to talk about it because they feel maligned or ridiculed, and they don't want to seem strange to other people. So they rather keep that to themselves. So what happened to me is about in 2002, we lived in Auckland, but we had a ski chalet in Oakuni where we used to go skiing every single weekend. And it was the very first week of the new season, so there wasn't a lot of snow. And my husband said to me, whatever you do, don't go over the rocks and damage the skis. And that day was fantastic. I went down a chute, and it was the fastest that I'd ever been. And it really was like flying. It was so beautiful. And then suddenly my left ski hit a little rock, and that collided with my right ski, and both skis came up and they touched my forehead. So all my ligaments and tendons went crack, 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 snap.
Wow.
And it was like when you watch a hunter going in behind a deer and getting a knife and slicing through the back and they just collapse.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was like. And I felt like I was having a heart attack. And the cold sweat came right through my whole body, and I couldn't move. And I was just lying in the snow in the shade, and it was so cold. And then somebody came up and said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I'm not." And they put their skis in a cross, and they said, "We're getting the paramedics or whatever, from the mountain." So They popped me on a sleigh. The pain was excruciating, took me, and they said, "Look, you're basically going to have x-rays and ultrasound, whatever." So managed to go back to Auckland and got MRI booked in. Now, as things work, when you look back, you can see how the story unfolds. But when you're going through the story, you don't even know that it's a story.
Just excruciating.
It was so awful. And we had a radio announcer and a television announcer at that time called Paul Holmes. And I never listened to breakfast radio because I had two little boys. And that was my time to get them to school, make sure their lunches were packed. It was a busy time. But this particular day, my hubby said to me, look, I'm going to sort them out and get them to school. You get yourself ready for your MRI. So I put the radio on. And that was Paul Holmes. And guess what he said? If you're ever thinking of having an MRI and they offer you music, say no. Because you have your headphones on and it goes la 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 la, and then da 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 da, like a jackhammer. I mean, what are the chances? So I went to get the MRI and the lady said to me, would you like music? And I said, no.
Oh, thanks.
And I've never been a religious person because I'm not into formal religion, but I've been a very, very connected, grateful person. I do believe that there's something big out there. I've never been quite sure what it was, but I know there's something big. So while I was lying in the chamber and I had my eyes closed, in my head, I said, thank you for creating a human being that was intelligent enough to build this machine. Because without this, I might never walk again. Because the specialist had said to me, Jill, this looks so bad. And I can't promise you that you'll be able to walk again or even walk well. Let's just see the damage. And with that, I started seeing what looked like a video playing, and I'd never seen that before, but my eyes were closed. And I was shown the images of a fish finder and all a resonance and an image, and there were the fish. And then I was told magnetic resonance image. And I went, MRI. And then the next minute I was in England and I was going between the stones in Stonehenge. And I was bouncing between the big stones and the little stones. And when I went from a little stone to a little space, it went wing, wing. And then if it was a wider stone, it went boing, boing, like that. And then suddenly this voice said to me, Stonehenge is a receiving and transmitting station, and that's how the ancients spoke to the gods. And I thought, what? Just absolutely gobsmacked. I mean, I'm having an MRI. and before I went in, I've got to let the audience know that I had one guide that I'd met called Aurelius. So I suppose I should back the bus up. So being a South African, married to a Kiwi, I had traveled to Africa, and while I was there, a series of incidents, I came across somebody that was riddled with AIDS that I had helped. And I had a cut on my thumb and my hands were covered in blood. It was a head injury. And my sister's husband, who was a farmer, had said, well, I hope you haven't got any cuts, wounds, because that person's riddled with AIDS, our farm worker. I said, well, there you go, I have. So I didn't really think about it. When I got back to New Zealand, I fell pregnant with our second son. And then I thought, oh, wow, maybe I should check.
Yeah.
And then they said, no, you don't have AIDS. But when he was born, he was a very, very poor, he couldn't really drink enough milk, and he didn't sort of have enough stamina as such. And then I thought, well, maybe it should be nutrition. What am I doing wrong? How can I help him? And I just happened to see in the newspaper an advert that said a 6 weeks course on nutrition, iridiology, something called naturopathy or whatever. So I never knew about iridiology. I was a housewife. I didn't know about any of these things. And I didn't know that you had a guide. I didn't know anything. And I booked in for the little course, and I sat next to this lady, and on the final night of the course, the lady that was giving the course had a guest iridologist. And as I was looking at her, I saw the blue light all around from her shoulders, all around her head. I mean, this is something I'd seen since I was a child, and I just called it God's glory. And I saw it around buildings, and I saw it around plants. And I just assumed everybody saw it. So I turned to the girl sitting next to me, the lady who was older than me, and I said to her, wow, look, she's got God's glory around her. And she looked at me, she said, what? I said, look, it's all blue. And she says, Jill, you can see auras. I said, what's an aura? So she said, come, we're going to go to the pub afterwards. This is the very last evening. And there are a few of us, we're going to have a drink. And I said, oh, no, I was very straight-laced. Oh, no, I don't drink. She said, well, you can have an orange juice, can't you? So we went to the pub and they were talking about something called meditation. I thought, oh, no, that's weird. That's weird. I've heard that before. It's like Eastern. I had no idea. So she then said to me, why don't you come on Saturday afternoon and I'll teach you to meditate. So I organised it with my hubby so that he could look after the little boys. And off I went, off on an adventure. And she, said it was a guided meditation. And she got me to a place and then she just left me. And when I woke up, she said to me, tell me what happened. So I went, this happened and blah, 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 blah. And she said to me, how long do you think you were under meditation for? I said, 10 minutes. She said, actually 45. So I said, wow. And she was what I didn't know. I'd been sitting next to a clairvoyant, a healer, the most amazing woman. And so I asked her question after question after question, because what had been happening to me before I met her was I'd bath the boys and I could feel the water before I closed the taps off. It was like thick cotton wool and I didn't know what that was. And then I would be putting the washing on and I'd feel somebody standing behind me and I thought my husband had come home for lunch and I'd turn and there'd be nobody there. Or I would walk down the supermarket aisle and my eyes started streaming from all the cleaning products. So all these things were happening to me and I didn't know what they were. So she said to me, I'm not going to answer your questions anymore because you have the ability to do this. And I said, absolutely I don't, because I don't know these things. She said to me, listen, everybody has a guardian angel and often you have more, or a guide. So she said, I'm going to teach you how to connect so that you don't have to come and ask me anymore. And to me, that was amazing because she had no ego. It was about genuinely just
wanting to help.
To help. So she said to me, find a really quiet spot. It can be sitting at your computer, typing. It can be writing in a book. And she said, just ask questions. So I said to her, how do I know it's not my imagination? She said, because you will get given words you've never heard before. And that's going to be your affirmation. So I said, okay. So I sent my husband and boys to the ski field for the weekend. So this is all before my accident. And it just worked out perfectly, that all the alignment leading to the point where I am now. And I sat down at the computer and I went onto Word and I said, who's there? And it was like, to me, Ouija board or something. And it was nothing and it was silent. And I started laughing and I got all nervous. Like, ooh. I said, okay, pull yourself together. And I then said, what's your name? And I got a word, Aurelius. I thought, I don't know anybody called Aurelius. Where did that come from? And she said, you have to type or write whatever it is. Don't second guess it. So I did Aurelius. And then I said, what foodstuffs should I stay away from? And they said, sorghum, corn, sugar beets, and lactose. I'd never heard of sorghum in my life. And I did maybe 2 other little sentences, and that was it. And then I went straight onto Google to find out what sorghum was. So that was the start. So once I had that, I started chatting more and more in my head and writing to Aurelius and saying, what do you want to share with me today? Like a secret friend, like a little invisible friend. And so it was just Aurelius and I. That's all I knew, but there's no way I was going to tell anybody about Aurelius because everybody would think I was a lunatic, right? So I kept quiet. Zip, zip, zip. So fast forward now. That's my background. I know a little bit. I don't know a lot. And there's my buddy Aurelius. Now I'm lying in the MRI chamber. And I'm saying, thank you so much for creating a human being that designed this machine. So maybe it can fix my leg. We can see what the problem is. Then I'm between Stonehenge, and the next minute, this little man arrives in front of me. My eyes are still closed. Yeah. And I just feel absolute unconditional love, like a torch beam going through me. And I immediately realize, oh my gosh, this is Aurelius. And he's got nut brown skin, wrinkled up, looking like Mother Teresa in male form. But he's got all these breastplate all around him with this magnificent, almost turquoisey lapis lazuli kind of jewelry on his shoulders and his breast, and almost like Egyptian-y, that kind of look. And he says, and then I said to him, is this noise giving you a headache, wherever you are? Because it was like a jackhammer. And he said to me, hush, stop jabbering like a monkey, and listen to what I've got to tell you. I want to share with you how your human energy system works, because this is something that you need to teach people. But I'm now still lying down, eyes closed, and this is going on. And he showed me fine white mist coming into the mouth. And he said that this is the portal of light for humans. And he said, this is the lobby. Their mouth is the lobby of their hotel, and they have 7 floors. And then he showed me the figure of the Da Vinci man with spread out like that with the layers. Now, then I had no idea what chakras were, meridians, nothing. And he just showed me the lines, and he said each line, each segment is a floor in the human hotel. So this is your entrance, your lobby to the hotel, and you've got 7 floors. And he said this fine mist coming in. He said people call it, he said humans call it prana, life force, energy, spirit, blessing, oxygen. He said call it whatever you like, but without it there's no life.
Breath.
And I said, yep, okay. And he knew that with me he's just got to do the cat sat on the mat. I don't go into all the hieroglyphics. Just tell me what it is. And he said, it goes through your lift shaft from the top of your crown all the way to the tippy toe. And he said, as it goes in and hits the lift shaft, each lift door on each center opens up at exactly the same time. And he said there's a centrifugal force, and he said it's like a helicopter blade that goes so fast you can't see that it's there. But that is what disperses the energy, the life force into each segment, right? And he said, however, he said humankind have negative emotions. And when they have a negative emotion, he said they often come with a color. He said, have you ever heard of the words red with rage or green with envy? He said it's very important for humans to study the history or the origination of the words. He says because words hold incredible power.
Language.
So he said, when you've got a color, green with envy, red with rage, he said, now you've got a blockage. He says, because if it's light, it just flows. But now the density of the color of the rage, he said, a lot of men get heart attacks because they have rage in their chests. That's where they hold it. And the reason they have the rage is because they can't control a situation. They want to be in control. So he said, what happens is it comes in, goes up and down, gets through, and wherever the emotion is held in the body, that's where the blockage is. So that breath, that oxygen no longer flows in that area. So he says now the body's no longer at ease, it is now at dis-ease, and therefore the disease sets in, be it cancer, be it whatever it is. So he said, remember man, woman, child, green, pink, blue, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Jew, any religion, atheist. He said, it makes no difference. You all get given the same amount. What are you going to do with it? Now he said, you were blessed with it coming in pure as the gift. What is it going to be like when it comes out the other side? Are you now going to poison others around you by the words that come out of your mouth? Because now he said to me, words are so strong that they are sharper than an assassin's bullet. They lodge in the body and they kill. They actually can kill. So he said, are you going to bless those around you with your words, or are you going to poison them? And then that was the end of the MRI. And then I went to see the specialist thinking I'd lost my mind. and I can see everything right today as it was all those years ago. And I kept very quiet. And then I wrote it all down when I got home. And when I saw him, he showed me the x-rays and he says, Jill, do you see all the white? So if white was not the good thing, there was white everywhere. And he said, I cannot promise you that you will ever walk again properly, but I'll do my best. So I went for my operation, and before I went for my op, I'd had a bad chest infection. But if he didn't operate then, he was actually going away on holiday, and it would mean another month where I couldn't do anything, go anywhere, walk anywhere because of the state of my knee. And I was just over it. So I kept quiet and said, no, I'm fabulous. I'm just fine. And went to hospital. Little did I know what was going to happen. So had the operation and the physio, and he went on holiday and he handed me over to the anaesthetist and said, just keep an eye on her. And I was still in hospital, and the physio came and looked at me and she said, I don't like the state of your chest at all. So she started doing the percussion or whatever and getting rid of a whole lot of gunk. And then the anaesthetist came to see me. And he said, yep, you're fine. You can be dismissed today. You can go home. And she said, no, I disagree. I think she's got a problem. I think she needs to stay under our care for another night. And he said, he overrode her and said, no, she can go. So off I went. So I was in so much pain. I was in painkillers and everything that at home we had a few bedrooms, and I couldn't sleep in the same bed as my husband because if he jiggled, it would just, the knee would go woo. So I went into the guest room next to my husband's bedroom, and in the middle of the night, I woke up listening to a steam train. I thought, what is that noise? And it was me, and I was drowning. And it was so weird because I couldn't breathe. And I realized I was dying. I was dying. And there was nobody there to help me, because if you can't breathe, then who's going to help you? And I couldn't call for my husband. I mean, he never wakes up for anything, and he had his door closed in his bedroom, and everything happened so quickly. And I started panicking, and it seemed like forever, but it was only a few seconds. And then a thought came into my head of our little boy when he was 5, when I was driving him to school one day, he just stopped and turned to me and he said to me, "Mum, do you know what you've got to do just before you die?" And it was just out of the blue. I mean, we're just on the way to school. And I said, "What?" He said, "You've got to thank God." And he didn't go to Sunday school. He didn't know all about God. So I said, "What for?" He said, "For giving you this life." And there I was dying. And I remembered that. And I was getting quite emotional. I started giving thanks to God for giving me a family. You know, I thought, I've got a roof over my head. I've got food. I've got a family that I've had love. I've got so much. And my mum-in-law had just died of emphysema, and I sent her a message while I was dying saying, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize enough how you were feeling with no breath. If only I could have given you more." And then I made peace that I was dying. Because it was pointless fighting it. And suddenly the room, it was about 2 a.m, my whole room lit up with light. It was the brightest light, but the softest light. And I know that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. But then 3 huge pairs of hands came out, just materialized. And they were like the hands that you see in the religious, like the Bible, like this. And they went under my calves and under my bottom and around my torso, around underneath my shoulders and my chest area. And they started singing Rockabye Baby on the treetop. And they said, "We're not going to let you drop. And we've got you." And then they started telling me how to breathe. So after hyperventilating, they managed to get my breath back. And they said, "It is not your time. You have work to do." But I had no idea what they were talking about. And then the light just started fading. And I realized that I had to go to the loo, but I was on crutches because I wasn't allowed to have any weight bearing. So I started going to the loo. And then when I got back, my husband stood at the door rubbing his eyes and he said, "You called." And I said, "No, I didn't." He said, "I heard you." And nothing wakes him up. It was unbelievable. And he said, "I don't like the look of you at all." And he put all the pillows behind me, propped me up completely. And we managed to get the doctor and I was looked after. So that's what happened. But the other interesting thing that happened was our house was on the market because we were moving from Auckland to Monica. But our tumble dryer had stopped working. So obviously defunct and we needed a new one, but we didn't want to pull it out of the hole because we didn't want a gap there when the buyers were looking. We just, wanted it to look nice. And my sister-in-law came round to look after me because I was in bed and Greg and the boys went skiing. And she said, "Have you got any washing, to do?" And she did the washing. And the next minute I heard the tumble dryer going. And I thought, it's impossible that the tumble dryer doesn't work. And it worked. The following day was the Monday, and the ACC had sent somebody round that would be able to make me a cup of tea or whatever. I couldn't even make a sandwich because I couldn't walk with crutches or anything. Yeah. And she said to me, she'll change the bed linen. And I said, "I will just put it in the dryer." And she came back, she said, "But the dryer doesn't work. It's not seeming to work." So that was what happened, right? So do you want me to fast forward after?
Yes, and I'll just clarify with some of the people listening. We're talking about New Zealand here. So if somebody gets injured in New Zealand, well, then they have a thing called ACC, which means that the government will come and basically look after you, and if you need anything, well, then they'll provide assistance. So I'm just clarifying that for overseas listeners.
Yes, it's called accident compensation, and we all pay into that.
Yeah.
So it's like a collective. Yeah.
Yeah. So then if anybody gets injured, well, then they're covered, that they get taken care of by the government.
Even if you come and have a skiing accident or a car accident, as anybody, they will look after you.
Any tourist.
It's quite good. So that was a hell of an experience for me, and I was in bed for 4 months and couldn't even lift my leg off the bed. And I had a physiotherapist that used to come and see me every single day until I got better. So it was a really, really big thing. So that lady that said to me, "Oh, you see Auris," who was my little mentor. We had packed everything up. I had boxes everywhere. We were waiting for the next day for everything to be transported, and we were leaving. And her husband had died, and she had just come from the cemetery, and she sat at my bench top, and she said to me, "I've just come from seeing Peter at the grave, and I asked him a question, and Jill, could you please give me the answer?" I said to her, "I can't do that." She said, "Yes, you can. Ask Aurelius for help." So I didn't know that she was really my teacher. She was pushing me and helping me the whole time, knowing that I could do something that I didn't believe it or even know that I had. And I started seeing a video playing in my head, which was the very first time MRI, when I saw it playing like a movie. And now it was happening again. And I said, "Oh my gosh." I said, "I see you traveling on a train and you're going to be writing 2 books and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah." And I said, "There's a very, very, very weird creature that's just arrived and he's talking to me." And I said, "He's got a head like a crocodile, but he's got a body like a human." And she said, "Yes, that's my guide." She said, "What does he say?" I said, "I can't hear him. He's going." She said, "Ask Aurelius to interpret for you." So you see how she was teaching me. So I said, "Aurelius, I can't hear this being." And suddenly I heard him speaking English, and he said, "Be careful who you tell about the story and seeing me and the way I look, because they will scoff. Many will not believe." So then we came and we arrived in Wanaka. I arrived in Wanaka, and I had become a real estate agent then, something I didn't want to do, but my husband said, "I think you'll be good at real estate." So I became an agent, and I went about 11 kilometers out of the town to sell a house in a particular area that I had never sold a house in. And since then I hadn't. It was the one and only, and once again for a reason. And I wanted to there was a lady there who had a little shop, and she had all these letterboxes. So I wanted to find out who I needed to get permission from to put the little pamphlets in the boxes. And she was very, very rude to me. And I thought, that's so odd, because nobody in this town's rude. Everybody's happy, it's idyllic, it's beautiful, it's soft, it's gentle. And my immediate thought was, she's got to be hurting. She's got to be hurting. And didn't give it another thought. And I went to bed that night. And as I was drifting asleep, she stood at the end of my bed with her father. Now, I knew nothing about the woman. I didn't even know whether she had a father or didn't have a father. And I had never had this experience where I was seeing physical people in front of me. This all happened after the near-death experience. It was like the dying had given me a living, a new way of living, a new way of being, a new layer, like going into a completely different dimension. That's the only way I can describe it. Maybe it was the bump on the head. So she stood there, and he had a horse, and he was reining in a horse. And I was told that he used to rein her in like an animal, and that she'd bought this business to make him happy because she wanted him to be proud of her. And they told me that nothing that she ever does.
That's good enough.
Never. And they said, please know, one of the most important things you need to know as a human, you are incarnated to appease yourself. No one else. And they say, we're not saying to be mean or all the other things to people or not inconsiderate, but you've got to be authentic. You've got to appease yourself, because when you don't do that, resentment, frustration, arguments, everything else flows. So that was a really, really good thing to learn so quickly. And I saw her surrounded, icing cakes, and they said, no, she's not going to be icing cakes as a living, but that she's a very creative being, and that she's not doing anything creative, and that if she carries on doing the work that she's doing, she will have died of a heart attack by the end of the year from literally a broken heart. And for the first time, I understood, after they had told me about the thoughts and the words and the blockages in the body, how when the heart is actually affected like that, how then the heart attack happens. It was fascinating. So that was it. And then they just disappeared. And of course, the very next day, I found my car driving itself there and actually parking outside her business. And for the very, very first time, I now had to give somebody a message. And I found her standing in front of me going, yes, what? So I said, I got a message for you. She said, who from? I thought, shit, who from? I said, from my head. She said, what? So I basically told her the story that I've just told you. And she said to me, how did you know my father was British? I said, because he was all dressed in British tweeds. So she said, well, you're 100% correct. And that's when I started shaking, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm brand new as a new real estate in this little village. I could have been the utter nutter. So she then said to me, and he did this and he did this, and I'm feeling like this, and blah, 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 blah. And where did you get this stuff from? I said, I don't know. It's like a video. I'm watching a movie and I'm just telling you what I see. And she said, oh. And then I left. I saw her about 2 months later in the supermarket. We didn't know each other. And she looked completely different. And she said to me, oh, it's you. I said, yes. She said, I've sold the business. I've moved to Auckland. I've bought a house there mortgage free, and I've enrolled in an art class. And it was like everything had just fallen away.
Changed completely.
Changed completely. But it made me so nervous. But Aurelius said to me, whatever we ever tell you and the messages we give you are always for the receiver. It is not for you to interpret. These are our words, not your words. As we had a little discussion before, you are just the vessel. You're the tap and we are the water. So that took a lot of that pressure off me. And so I thought, oh, well, this is not going to happen again. This is like, a one-off.
Just a one-off.
So do you want to know some more?
Sure. I'm fascinated. Yeah.
Okay. Whew, talk. So
it's amazing how things they seem horrific at the time, but they're so beneficial to your life after. Even people that get cancer and stuff like that, going through the process is the worst time in their life. It's horrific. But then when they come out of it, they have such gratitude because their life has changed so much. It's just shifted so much that they actually look back on that time and thank it, and they live their life in gratitude. It's amazing. I love it.
It definitely changed my life. And what I also realized, lying in bed for 4 months, I was very much a people pleaser before then, running around doing everything for everybody, just so that, because I had such low self-esteem, that is what filled me up, by doing stuff for people so people would say thank you, because it made me feel needed, wanted, accepted.
That's how you got your love.
But suddenly I was lying in bed and my identity went, because now I couldn't do anything for anybody. I couldn't be a mother. I couldn't be a wife. I couldn't be a friend. And all these people were coming and delivering food and flowers. Do you know how hard it is to say thank you to people? And my guide said to me, but you were the one that was giving, and you were filling up on of the giving. Now you're on the other side. In order to give, there has to be a receiver. You have to do both. You can't just be the one filling up on the giving. No. There has to be balance. So that, even lying in there for 4 months, gave me a lesson. So the next lesson that came along was, I met a lady, and I kept the whole weird stuff about myself very, very low key, because I was doing corporate stuff and I didn't want anyone to know, any of my clients to know, because I didn't know if this was happening with anybody else. And I just wanted to be accepted and acceptable. So only one girl knew, and she said to me, but you should be speaking to this lady in town. She's in her 70s and she's a bit like you. She's a bit weird like you. Very weird. So I went to see her. She said to me, are you here for a reading? I said, no. She said, well, then what are you here for? I said, well, I'm here to talk. There are a few things that I just want to bounce off you. And then she said to me, okay, I'm going to help you. I want you to do a reading for me. So I was starting to learn what a reading means. And then I would just say to Aurelius, tell me what John needs to know at this stage of his life, or at this time of his life. I would say to people, don't say, am I going to win the lotto? Am I moving? When is this happening? I said, because spirit knows what it is that you need to know, more than what it is that you think you need. Because that changes all the time as you change. So I did a reading for her, and she said, oh my gosh, Joel, how did you know about this? How did you know about that? So then we were really talking. And then she said to me, I'd got to know her quite well. And she called me one day and she said, would you please meet me down at the Qhht River? I've got some news I'd like to share with you. And she said, I think I've got lung cancer. I said, oh no. And she said, I don't want sympathy. I want to know, do I have lung cancer? And I said, well, I can't do that, and I'm not allowed to. I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose or whatever. And she said, look, you've either got this skill, this ability, or you haven't, right? She said, just tell me what you get. So I said to her, regardless of what I get, I want you to go and see a doctor. So we made that agreement. And I said, I was so flabbergasted and so unsettled, because all the readings I ever did before, I had to be quietly by myself at my computer or with a piece of paper and just write. I'd never actually done it in front of anybody. And that's why I always thought that what I was doing wasn't real, where you get these mediums or clairvoyants that just go, John, I see a figure behind you. Oh my gosh, it's your mother, and she's got a message. I can do that, but it's on paper. So I never thought of myself as legit, right? So I panicked and I said, oh, just go and sit over there. And I got into my car and there happened to be a pad and a pen in my car. There's never a pad and a pen. Never. So I just said, is it lung cancer? They said affirmative. I said, why the lungs? They said, because the lungs are a holding place or a reservoir. I said, for what? They said, for all expectations and grief. And then I thought, wow, they're teaching me about all the different body parts and the emotions that reside in each body part. And they said, when you look at the body part that is hurting, then you look up the metaphysical meaning. Then you'll know the emotion that needs to be addressed. I'm thinking, why aren't we taught this as a subject in school? So, real stuff. So they then brought through her husband, who had passed away, and he gave her a whole lot of messages. And I had never done that before. Wasn't seeing dead people, so-called dead people, which aren't dead at all, because who was I talking to?
Yeah.
And I gave her all the information. And then as I ended, they said to me, you need to work on her healing for half an hour once a week. And I thought, well, I can't do that. What do I know? And they said, well, Aurelius said he will assist. So I told her, and she said, well, I've got nothing to lose. I said, well, please go and see the doctor. Go, and it came back and they did it. And yes, she had lung cancer. So her daughter was a Bowen therapist and she had a massage table. So I went over to her and I just said to Aurelius, show me what to do. I didn't have a clue. And they got me to stand at the foot of the bed and hold my hands like that. And I started scanning her body with my hands this much above her body, not touching. And then suddenly my hands started making like patterns and weird movements all over and then going really fast. And then they said, get this hand and hold that hand in. Because they said, we are changing the vibration in that area, in the energy field, with the patterns that we are giving you, but we don't want it dissipated. We want it to be strong like a laser beam, and that's why you have to hold the energy. Otherwise, it's just going to dissipate. And I was like gobsmacked, because what on earth was happening? Now, her eyes went big like this. She said, oh, you're a magnetic healer. What the hell's a magnetic healer? So I don't know. And so the next week I went back. This time they started with my hand upside down. I thought, wow, this is hard. And I said, oh, they're telling me that you're giving yourself hard work, your body hard work, because you are eating upside down. She said, what do you mean? I said, I don't know. So she said, Jill, ask. Like, she taught me that you've got a connection, Jill. Why aren't you asking? So I said, oh, what does it mean? And they said, king, queen, prince. I said, oh, I understand. So they give me a lot of symbology. So I said, they tell me that humans have to eat like a king for breakfast. Yes. Because most of your energy gets expended from waking to lunchtime.
During the day.
You have to have lunch like a queen and dinner like a prince. But they said humans eat upside down. They actually eat like a prince,
the wrong way around.
Then a queen, then a king. And they said, and that's why you've got an obesity problem, because everybody's going to bed with and they're not, working off the energy of the food. So
fast at night, not during the day.
Yes. I mean, I still eat a bigger meal at dinner, but because I've got a husband who needs food at night.
He just thinks he does, that's all. He just thinks he's trained himself to believe that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I should be giving him eggs and steak for breakfast.
Totally.
Oh, dear. So then as my hand travelled, I went to her stomach and her intestines, and I started seeing inside her body. And I saw that her intestines were like, in Australia, you get a pond or a dam and you've had a drought, and all the bottom of the earth are like cracked Easter eggs.
Dries up.
Yeah, it's all absolutely dehydrated and whatever. Dry. So I realized this was her intestines. So I said to her, look, I'm so terribly sorry. I don't know if somebody's knocking at the door. I said, I said, can I ask you a personal question? She said, you can ask me anything. I said, do you have trouble going to the loo? She said, Jill, it's so bad that I have to go to the doctor for a manual evacuation. I said, okay. I said, they're telling me that you have to have a mug of boiling water upon rising and retiring. And that's going to be like a drain cleaner. It's going to start loosening up, and that you have to start having more fluid. And she says, well, I have 3 cups of coffee a day. That was her entire fluid.
That was her whole,
That was it. And she was a smoker, and she ate very little. And I said, they're saying that you have to have breakfast and you've got to have roughage. So only when I got home did I realize, how is it possible that I saw inside her body? How is it possible? So then I decided to experiment. And I'd meet a farmer and his wife, and they were in their 60s. And they were open to, and I'd met them through real estate. And they were just, you have that feeling where you can just maybe take a conversation in that direction. And I said, do you want me to practice on you? I said, I want to practice this like healing stuff. And she came on, and she was such a tiny little lady. And I ran my hands over, and she said, wow, what do you see? I said, wow, what do you mean? She said, I can see in your face that you've seen something. So I said, oh, it's nothing. She said, no, tell me what you saw. So I said, when you were a little girl, you could get a jewelry box and it flips open and there's a little ballerina and it goes tinkle, tinkle, tinkle on a spring, and then you push it down. I said, they're using the words, they say to me, our little ballerina. I said, so in my head, it doesn't make any sense. That's why I thought I wouldn't say anything. She says, but Jill, that means everything to me. So I said, why? She said, because I was such a good ballerina that I wanted to join the New Zealand ballet, but I couldn't because I was too tiny. I was never going to be a ballerina. And I said, oh, they're telling me, so you chose to be a nurse. She said, that's right. So that's when I realized I've got to just
trust.
Just trust. And then her husband went on the massage table, and I got to his heart, and I said to him, you've got a tear in your heart. This is an emotional tear. But your heart's not damaged, but your heart is damaged. And I said, it happened to you when you were about 12 or 13. I said, it's got something to do with family. Did you have a big argument then? He said, no. I said, oh, okay, well, that's what I'm told. And then I just did a bit of energy healing and everything. So the following week he came to see me. He says, I've got something to tell you. My wife said I must speak to you. So I said, what? He said, I was 12 when I found out I was adopted. Isn't that amazing? So fast forward over lots and lots and lots of stories. The weird and the wonderful. So one day I decided that I was losing my mind and that nothing had happened to me and I was just the same as everybody and I just wanted to be normal. And I started writing down all my different experiences of precognition, of being told to put my foot on the brake on the car after doing 100 and then just slowing down and the car exploding. I mean, so many, those kind of things. When I got over 40, I then realized that actually something was happening and that it wasn't my imagination. So in 2017, my little sister from Africa sent me an email, and we were busy building a house, and it was ice cold outside. It was winter in the ski village, and my husband had decided to go to bed early. And the email, she said to me, this is a video clip. She said, I know nothing about this woman. I have no idea how this got on my computer. And she said, for some weird reason, I felt compelled to send it to you. I'm so sorry, Jill. If it's rubbish, just delete it. So I pressed play. And it was Alba Weinman, who is a Dolores Cannon. She did Qhht. Then she did introspective hypnosis with Aurelius. She's a fully qualified clinical hypnotherapist. So she's got years and years of practice. And on top of that, her sessions, I didn't know, I don't know anything about this woman, sells out in seconds online. I look at it and think, wow, what a fascinating woman. And maybe I should get her to New Zealand as a guest speaker. Oh, I wonder if she's got a website. So I found her website, and it had the New Zealand and Australian flag on it. I thought, that's weird. I thought she was American. And it said, my visit down under. And this was the May, and she was coming to New Zealand and Australia in the September. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll book a session. Made myself a cup of tea, looked for my credit card. And what day shall I have? And I booked. When she met me, and I had to fly all the way to Wellington. And when she met me, she looked me up and down. And I think she thought that I was dressed for YouTube. And she said, not everybody goes on YouTube, you know. I have to see at least 100 clients before one is good enough to have information to share with humanity. So I said, I'm not here for YouTube. I've got so many questions, and I saw what you do, and I love to be hypnotized. So she hypnotized me, and I felt robbed because I didn't have a past life. And I went straight into channeling as an ambassador from the Intergalactic Federation of Light on Earth. And she said to me, Jill, can I put this on YouTube? She said, she said, you're a channel. And I'm thinking,
I would have had so much fun with you.
And I'm thinking, what is a channel? You know? And I'd only ever been hypnotized once by a local hypnotherapist. And it was like that. And this was like that. And I didn't want to disrespect the local hypnotherapist because she's a clinical hypnotherapist. It's completely different. And my mind was blown. And when I said to my guide, to my guides, what on earth was that? And they said that we used your sister as a catalyst because we wanted you to meet the American because you're going to be working with the American. But to back this up, 7 years before that, in 2010, I was working from home in winter again with snow and a fire going and the big curtains. And I decided to walk to I'm sorry, I'm talking so much.
Don't be sorry. I love it.
So much to say. And I found myself walking to the kitchen, thinking, I need a cup of tea. But as I walked, my mouth started drooping, and I thought I was having a stroke. But my mouth opened, and I started speaking out loud in the weirdest language I'd ever heard. And it wasn't the light language that you hear. It wasn't that. And
there's millions of them.
yeah, but this was in my head, I thought, oh my God, this is ancient Aramaic. Like, I had that feeling, but I didn't know what it was. And I'm thinking, where's a recorder? I need to record this. People will never, never, never believe it. And then I found myself striding to the curtains and opening them up. And it was in English. And they said, you have been chosen. You are a channel. Open up your heart. Let the light in. It is time for the discourse to begin. And I thought, what the hell is a discourse? I know the discourse is a conversation, but what are they talking about? Am I losing my mind? Am I ready for the cherry farm? I need to be committed. And then I thought about that lady Glenda, who was the very, very first one that said, oh, you see auras, because I knew she knew her stuff. And I phoned her and I said to her, Glenda, this just happened. What do you think it was? And she said, hold on, I'll put you in touch with Mary Fry. She's staying with me. So Mary Fry was one of the first national clairvoyants to go on national radio in New Zealand. And I didn't want to speak to Mary Fry. I want to speak to Glenda. And Mary Fry said to me, oh, Jill, it was the Space Brothers speaking to you. I said, oh, please, what a load of rubbish. I said, what's the point of them speaking? I didn't understand a word they said. So what's the point? And she said, because you're black and white and you need proof. And they wanted to give you proof that they exist. So I still thought, what a load of hogwash. So I spoke to Glenda and I said, why didn't you speak to me? She said, because the same thing happened to me this week and I didn't want to put words in your head. So I said, okay. So I put the phone down, went to Aurelius, my buddy. I said, Aurelius, who was that I just spoke to? He said, Dominus. I said, who's Dominus? He said, Lord Protector, Lord Galactor, Lord Almighty over us all, we too bow unto and before him. You have earned the right to work with Dominus. So my husband got home and I casually said to him, Greg, have you ever heard the name Dominus? He said, yeah, it's God. I said, how do you know? He says, remember, I was an altar boy and I got kicked off because I didn't know when to ring the bell because it was in Latin. And the mass for God, the name of God in Latin is Dominus.
The one thing he remembered.
So I thought, okay. He said, why? I said, no reason. But just as I'd finished writing to Aurelius, my phone rang and it was somebody that wanted to see a house. So I thought, okay, this is like from being woo to, here's Jill, a real estate agent. So Monica's so tiny, everything's so close. I got in my car and I said to whoever it was, okay, guys, if you really spoke to me, make it happen again. And my mouth opened, out it came, the whole thing. And as I parked the car to see these people, it stopped. And they smiled and waved at me. And I thought, if you knew what was happening in my car 2 minutes earlier, you would run for the hills.
You'd be up that mountain.
Now, this story of my long story is nearly coming to an end. So it's not going to be much, much longer. So I then had sold a house to a farming couple who had sold the farm, bought the holiday house in Wanaka, but had no forwarding address because they didn't know where they were going in the meantime. And I wanted to give them a gift because they were the only, for how Spirit works, they were the only people I'd never, ever given a gift to. And Spirit had lined it up, but of course I didn't know that. So every time I went past that house, I would look for a car to see if I could give them a gift. And after 2 years, and just after me speaking weirdly, there was a car in that driveway. And I pulled up and I met the woman, and she was friends of the couple, and she was just hiring the house for the ski holiday. And she said, yes, go and get a present and we'll leave it at the bench top. But she insisted that I have a cup of tea. But I was the important person with the important houses to sell. I don't have time to hang around for a cup of tea. but I did. And she showed me her business card. She said, yes, she thinks she wants a holiday house as well. And it had a double tetrahedron on it with all the rainbow colors. And I thought, what's going on here? And I said, what's this? She says, why, Jill? That's a double tetrahedron. And on the Monday, she phoned me and she said to me, have you got time for a quick lunch? So I said, sure. And I had exactly 1 hour break before the next client. She saw me in the restaurant. She looked at me and she said to me, are you particularly hungry? I said, well, no, not really. She said, good. Follow me back to the house. I have a message for you. She knew nothing about me. She just knew I was a real estate agent. So I thought, why can't she just say, oh, the message is the people say thank you for the present. Went to the house. She says to me, sit on the chair. I feel I've got to close my eyes for this one. She opened her mouth and she started speaking the exact same language that I had 2 weeks prior. Now, it's science fiction, right? I looked around to see if there was a camera, like candid camera, somebody's playing a trick. And she said to me, they are here, do you understand? So I said, yes. And then I felt my belly button below my belly button, like a funnel, like a pyramid, but it had gone this way, pointing down. And she said, is the pyramid in place? I thought, this is now really, really getting peculiar. So I said, yes. So she said, they're now asking you to ground yourself. Now, I'd heard this word grounding, but I didn't know what it was. So I said, Aurelius, if you want me to ground myself, you better ground me because I don't know what it means. And I was on the earth, and then I was traveling through the earth, and it became molten lava. And then I went through the fire, and then I went to the middle of the center of the earth, and it was like a huge, huge, huge cave, and it had a drip of water from the top, and it was just going. And they told me that this is the heartbeat of Gaia. This is the heartbeat of the earth. And then they said, water, fire, earth. And I came through the earth and they said, air, you are now grounded. So I said to her, okay, I'm grounded. She said, they have a favor to ask you. So this was the year 2010. And I'm thinking, why would they have these space brothers, whoever they are? This was now 7 years before I found out about the Intergalactic Federation of Lights. I was clueless. And she said, there's just been an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and they want your assistance to help to clean it up. I mean, come on, really? I mean, these omnipotent, amazing, all fabulous godlikes needs Jill Cole to clean up the ocean. I mean, what a joke, right? So I said, yeah, sure, very facetiously. And she was going all around me because I was peeping. And then she said, thank you. They said, thank you. I said, no problem. I mean, what the hell had I done? I sat on the kitchen chair. I didn't want to go. And then I looked at the time, and just before then she said to me, you were huge in Egypt. She said, you were one of those men with the long beards on those big, big chairs outside the temples. I said, yes, I've got a big affiliation. I said, I've seen a lot of that. I said, thank you so much. I've got to go. Bye. And then I went back to the office. The very next morning, when I went in, the secretary said to me, hey, did you watch the breaking news on breakfast TV this morning? So I said, no, what? She said, you know that oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico? My ears went. I said, yes. She said, scientists say that an organism must have worked in it overnight because most of it is gone. I said, what did you say? And how do you even begin to comprehend or anything, right? So now that's 2010. Then I meet Alba, 2017, and she hypnotizes me, and I'm told that I'm going to work with her, let the discourse begin. That's the first time I'd heard the discourse since 2010 when they said, you're a channel, let the discourse begin. But I still don't know what the discourse is. So in 2019, I'm told that, and I'm given a vision for her, and I contacted a lady called Caroline Mace, or Miss, and told her what I was told, and would she be part of it? And she said yes. And then I thought, well, Alba would also be good to be part of that. So I invited Alba to that kind of forum, and she said, well, why don't we start one on a smaller scale before we hit America and do it in New Zealand to iron out any, and I said, sure. And then they said to me, there's a man called Antonio Sangio. He has to come with her, and they've got to teach the hypnosis that she does in New Zealand, in Wanaka, and that I have to do the course. So I told her, and she said, that's never going to happen because he's just resigned from his work. It's not going to happen. And anyway, he needs X amount of people, blah, blah, blah. So I said, oh, well, we could just pencil it in and I'll advertise. And if he doesn't get enough people, well, then don't worry about it. And she phoned me back. She says, I can't believe it. He said yes. And I thought, well, it's not my request, it's Spirit. If they know, they've got a plan. And he arrived and he did the course. And I did the course. And it was the biggest class he's ever had. They came from all over the world. And just before he left, he said, in 2020, in February, we're going to Peru. Would you like to come with us? There are a bunch of people from all over the world. There'll be about 35 of us. Some of them are hypnotherapists. Others are like a doctor and a paramedic and a neuro.
You name it.
All these different types. And I didn't know anything about Peru. I had heard of a place called Machu Picchu, but I didn't know. So I arrived there. And then stuff really started to ramp up. I started seeing stuff. I had visions. I started channeling out loud. And there was a guy with us. Have you ever heard a guy called Tabash?
I'm not familiar.
Blaise Tara. So he's been channeling. So Blaise Tara channels Tabash. He's been doing it for like 30 years or something. So
he has a very good friend with Dolores Cannon.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yes.
They've actually got a YouTube together and that they made in Christchurch.
Really?
They're on stage together. Yeah.
Wow. That's so he was there with us. And then I started this spontaneous channeling, and the guy that was with us, the very down-to-earth Aussie paramedic, come fireman, he got such a shock because he just knew me as Jill, and he started videoing it. And if he hadn't videoed it, I would never have believed it. It was like weird. And then Alba heard about it because he showed the video to her on the bus, and she said, this group is not being separated for the rest of the tour because when this happens again, we need to be together. And I said, that's never going to happen again. Because, John, the first time it had ever happened was in 2010. And 10 years later, suddenly it happened. Why the hell would it happen again? And then suddenly we were at this place, like a Stonehenge place, public, other people, and I could feel it coming up. And I walked as fast as I could, as far away as everybody, because I didn't want to embarrass anybody. And this time it came out, you would swear I was leading the haka. It was so loud. And then I went to each person in the group and gave them all a message. Now, we then got on the bus about a few days later to go to Machu Picchu. This was the highlight of the trip. And Blaise said to me, Jill, you are not allowed to channel on Machu Picchu. We will get kicked off. It's a very, very sacred place. And I said, but it's okay for you. You've been doing it for years, but I'm brand new. I said, so I don't know how to stop it. It just happened? He said, but now you know what it feels like. I said, yeah, I do. After the second time now, yeah, I definitely do. He said, you're in charge. You tell them. Not at the moment. It's not allowed. I said, oh, okay, thanks. As soon as I got on the bus, it started coming up. And I said, guys, not now. It's not allowed. And they said, we want you to look up in the mountain and find the cave. I thought, what? And I looked up and looked and looked and looked, and there was this big, black, huge entrance. And they said, this is where it gets wacky. They said that's where the aliens live. They have a base in there. And they live off the high energy of humanity that visit Machu Picchu. But don't worry, your group is protected. So then a few things else happened there. And when I was walking with Blair towards the bus, I said to him, who was that? I was channeling. He said, the very first lot were the angelic realm. They are part of your team. And the second one was Archangel Michael. And I thought, oh, please, what did I know about angels? I mean, I was never into anything like that, being not religious or whatever, just being a grateful, pragmatical person. I just thought, people like to think that they're chatting to angels and all this stuff. That's what I thought. And I said, oh, yeah, that's, so fine. And I said, who am I speaking to? Am I speaking to Blair now or to Bosch? And he said, you're actually speaking to the other one. So I said, who's the other one? He said, he doesn't wish to say. And when I told Alba, she said, Jill, he's just starting to channel Jesus, and it's so controversial that he's just keeping a little bit low profile. So I said, oh, okay. But I was still thinking, well, Jill Cole's not speaking to Jesus. I mean, that doesn't happen. So came back from Peru the day New Zealand closed its borders for COVID.
For COVID.
We came out of COVID. And during COVID, my father died. And my father disowned me for 30 years because I married my husband, who was a plumber. And he didn't think that a plumber was a good enough option. So he disowned me. So when he died, I went to the lake in my car, didn't get out, and spoke to my father. And I said, you know what? I forgive you. And I wish you well. I want you to go on your next journey with a clear conscience, no baggage. And I'm sure that you'll be able to have the capacity to be a better dad on that side than you ever were able to be here. And I told nobody that my father died because I didn't want to be a hypocrite with people saying, oh, I'm so sorry, Jill. And then me having to say, oh, thank you, because I didn't have that relationship. So the 3 girls from the Peru trip, out of the blue, said to me, have you had a reading with Tabash? So I've learned to pick up the clues now. The clues we all get every day, but we don't all act on them. And I got hold of him and I said, look, I believe I need a reading. And the very, very first thing he said to me, and there's no way he would have known, and he just said, I have your father here. And he said, thank you for the chat at the lake. And I thought, right, you've got my attention. The very next thing he said is James, Jesus's brother, is with you. He cleared out your pipes in Peru. He's working on your physiology to make you a pure channel for the work ahead, the discourse. And I thought, oh, okay, this is weird. And a few other things. 1 week later, when we were all out of lockup, I went to the supermarket and Alba phoned me out of the blue and she said, hi, how are you? Can you chat? I said, no, I can't. I'm in the supermarket. I'll phone you in 10 minutes. Got in the car and then my video started playing again, my whatever you want to call it. And I was told, Alba will be hypnotizing you 12 times. we are going to give you the questions, and she will ask you those questions, and we will give you the answers to the questions. You're going to write a book. It's going to be called The Discourse. And it's going to be like a master's degree in spiritual development for humanity to help them with ascension. So I phoned her back and told her, and I thought she was just going to laugh. She says, great, let's start on Monday. So I said, what? So that's what we did. So we did the whole thing. We thought it was just going to be a book. So we did session 1, session 2, and of course, she's in America, I'm in New Zealand, so it was like this on a video. And when we got to session 3, something very, very weird happened. My whole body sunk into the bed, and another being came through, and I started channeling, talking about Jesus and the Essenes, talking about all this information. And I was so shocked afterwards because my voice changed. And they said, please release this video immediately. We're on a timeline for humanity. People need to know this information now, and all the subsequent ones. So the book is 12 chapters. The last 10 are on YouTube, on her channel, for free, for the whole of humanity. So in April this year, the book has been written, it's for sale, it's published. We did a Kindle, and last month we went Audible. So that's done. And then they said, I'm going to be traveling the world. They're going to be channeling through me. They will choose the countries that I need to go to, and they will allow me to speak any given language of the country.
Wow.
John, I still find that hard to believe after everything. I said to Alba, when that happens, then maybe I'll be a believer. But it's my story.
Wow, how amazing.
That's part of my story, and it happened from a near-death experience that really opened me up.
It's
so
all synchronicities, isn't
I'm no
it?
different to anybody.
No, that's right. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So now I get given visions. I ask them what they want humanity to know. I write it down, and then I put it on my YouTube channel because it's for humanity.
And just tell people what is your YouTube channel? What's the name of it?
It's my name, but
Jill Cole.
Yeah. So because I'm so technically inept, I go to my website. I'm old. I'm going to be 63. So what do I know about technology? Okay, you young people, you know, but we don't.
I'm a one-finger typer still. I still type with one finger.
So if they go to my website, which I don't have to say www, people know that, don't they?
You just did that.
And it's my name, Jill Cole, JILLCOLE.org, .org. And then on the website are like little icons. I'm going to have to redo the website because it's not like professional or anything, but you've got the little icon of the YouTube thing there. And then they can just press that and it'll take it straight through. And on that, and I don't even know how it works, I've got the videos there, but I think it's called a playlist. And those are all,
that's
all
right.
the Discourse. Those are all those ones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my whole
for
job,
young
my whole
people,
purpose is for people to hear their words, the God's words, Jesus's words, Dominus, Aurelius, And then Archangel Uriel came through as well, and Simon the
I
disciple.
love that energy when they come through. I
So-
love it when they come through the clients. Love it.
So if you want to hypnotize me and have a go, let's see what comes through.
I would have so much fun with you. So much fun.
Oh, you would?
Oh, totally. I'll be digging. I would be digging the questions. Totally.
So we're in for a wild ride. They've been telling me about the future and what's going to happen. They've given timelines, everything. But that's why it's important to get the message out now, because we want people not to be scared. We want them more to be aware and to realize. They keep on telling me this is one adventure of one lifetime. You've died so many times before. There's nothing to be scared of. Live in the moment. Be yourself, embrace it, enjoy it, be the joy germ. And then, because you're giving that out, that is exactly what you're going to get in return. There are troubled times ahead, but we are guided. The light is winning. I mean, if you could see that light that's coming in behind us. And they told me through these hypnosis sessions, that's why if they listen to the discourse, they'll be told about the great lever, they'll be told about the event. But they said to me that there is a light coming that this earth has never, never, never seen before or experienced, and it's called fusonic. And they call it the Christed light. And they said everybody is going to be hit at the same time equally. So those of us like myself or yourself or others that see, hear, feel, touch, etc., they are also going to become like that. But the only problem with it is that they wouldn't have had the years of learning and understanding. So suddenly they will be able to be aware of the corruption, and they will go burkos because they will have so much anger they won't realize. My guide said, why would you judge another when you were once that yourself? When you once had that experience yourself, because it's just an experience and an energetic output. And they said, how much love can you hold in your hearts? The times ahead are for heart holding, to keep it as calm as possible so that we can get through ascension and get through into the golden era.
So beautiful, isn't it? So beautiful.
And we got front row tickets.
Totally. Yep. And it's just sort of getting back to life itself. That's why I love this.
I love life.
Love life. Life
and
loves you.
Coming, and there's nothing that's going to stop it. So love the people you're with, love everything that you do. Stop treading water, stop making excuses, stop playing victim, and stop giving away your power. Stand strong and just be who you are and give thanks for this life. It's going to be over soon, and you're going on the next adventure. It's going to be like Tinder. Next, swipe left, swipe right.
What's the next one?
Yeah, next. Oh, dear.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That has been absolutely amazing, and I'm in so much gratitude for you. And just going back to synchronicities, I had no idea who Jill Cole was until I had a little hunch to put on my Facebook, on my private Facebook page, John Mcluckie, just on Facebook. Has anybody had any NDE experiences that they want to talk about? And as soon as I got the hunch, I just put it up. And then Jill Cole messaged me and said, yes, I'd love to. So that's what we mean, like follow your intuition and just trust it and just allow it and just do it, because you never know what's going to happen. This happens. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Oh no, I'm the one that's grateful. You know why? because I want people to get the message, and I want them to know who they are. That's my
They
job.
really are.
Teach people who they are. A spark of God.
When I had my first QHHT session, most people come in and go and ask, what's the purpose in life? I didn't even have that question. But for my session, and I've talked about it before, I went up into the spirit world, and I saw my guide, and she was just there. It was a feminine guide, and my whole purpose was just to remind people that there's a spark within them. And all I saw was a vision of people just walking along, and they were just like this. They were so sad and so angry. They'd lost themselves. So my whole purpose in this whole life is just to remind people there's a spark within you.
Yeah,
Never forget it.
They
are the spark. That's the real them.
I mean, it's when they know that and understand that and plug into that, there's nothing left to fear.
There is no fear.
Because my dad's dead. Physically, his little physical vehicle
his body's gone.
His body's gone, but he was chatting to me. Now, he actually came through me. I actually said to him, okay, so Dad, so what's going on, about a few months ago? And he said, I'm actually in the waiting room. Yeah. So I said to him, what's a waiting room? And he said, well, it's like a classroom, and we've now chosen our next adventure, our next incarnation, but we're being taught about the policies and procedures on that planet so that we're acclimatized as such. I thought, wow, I never heard about the waiting room. And he said to me, just because he is no longer human, he hasn't suddenly become an angel. He's still got that same personality, but he's just got a much greater awareness. And he said they've given him permission to watch me and listen to me how I interact with humanity, because he needs to learn about that communication was never one of his strong gifts. And I thought, I didn't know that they learned from us. I always thought it was the other way around. But it's not. We interact with
it's a two-way street.
Yeah. So all those people who've had loved ones that have passed away, I want them to know that they are never separate. We are just going at a lower frequency. So we are just denser. But if we lift our vibrations and get rid of the dross and the rubbish and all the baggage, all the psychological nonsense that we carry, as you lift yourselves and rise above, ascend, then you'll be able to hear them. And actually some of you will be able to see them. It's just frequency matching frequency, output, energy.
That's right. I don't necessarily see them. I'm more of a feeler and a senser myself, and just a knower. I just know. My wife's telling me all the time, how do you know that? I'm like, I don't know how I know it. I just know it.
Because I'm shit hot, mate. You should know that. You married me.
It's just accepting it. Yeah, and being grateful for it.
It's exciting, isn't it? Exciting.
Oh, so exciting.
So I've got lots and lots of other stories that I could tell you about vibration, about the energy field, about collective consciousness, about color, about why you like certain music, why you go with certain people. Yeah. I mean, and you know what?
It's endless.
It's not hard. It's absolutely simple.
That's what I say. This kind of stuff is so simple. Humans have a habit of making things complicated. They go, it can't be that simple. It's like, yes, this stuff is that simple. It is so simple. You've just been trained not to think that it's that simple.
if they go on to the YouTube and listen to that, when I went all weird and through the body into session 403, The Awakening, and they find out about Jesus and the Essenes and see me there in the Essenes with Jesus, then they'll understand why I've had these experiences. And I couldn't understand why they were choosing me for these experiences. But then they explained to me that on the Intergalactic Federation of Light, Jesus sits on that council with me. I'm on that council. And because I was family with him during the Essenes, during his period of flesh and blood on this earth, that he used me as his voice piece. So it's got nothing to do with whether you're a Christian or an atheist or anything else.
Doesn't matter.
It's about energy. And that's why they used that vibration for clearing up the ocean. For me being able to hold it so that they had a human vessel to use. But at the time, I just thought it was ludicrous. I still don't have the answers. I'm still learning all the time. And it's like a great big puzzle where you put all the little...
Yeah, there's pieces, yeah. I've talked to maybe, I think you're about the fourth or fifth person that have had a very, very similar experience on that day that have helped with that. I'm very familiar with that story that you just shared. Yeah. And they all thought that it was weird.
It makes you feel so humble.
Oh, 100%.
And I don't want people to think that I'm this font of wisdom and knowledge, because I'm not.
No.
I really am not. And I sometimes think, what if they suddenly just switch it off? Like, do you know what I mean? I always think, oh, are they going to come through today? I mean, it's not a given, but they haven't let me down yet. So, fingers crossed. So thanks,
Beautiful.
John. Thanks.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And if you're ever interested in having a QHST session or whatever, I'll chuck my website down below, or just go onto Jill Cole's website and then just follow. It's called a link. You just follow the link to YouTube.
What did I call it? An icon.
I think so, yeah. It's the same, but different. Cool. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, Jill. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.